Welcome everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for our partner webinar series. I'm Aaron Rosenberg, Senior Vice President of Business Development at Oasis Solutions, and I'm so glad that you've committed some time out of your busy afternoon today to join us for the next 30 minutes or so to learn more about sales tax automation with our preferred partner, Avalara. This is what our agenda is going to look like for the next half hour or so we're going to spend together today. I'll start out with a little information about Oasis, and then I'll be introducing George Padilla, who will take us through a discussion pertaining to sales tax needs and challenges, helping guide you through how the Avalara solution provides clients a guiding light in the quagmire of rules and regulations around sales tax. We'll also learn more about the impact that Avalara can provide to your business and provide you with information about how you can get started. As I mentioned, we're very pleased to welcome George Padilla, who serves as our Alliance Manager at Avalara, and who will be talking more about their solution in today's webinar shortly. A few housekeeping functions as we get started. We really appreciate questions and want this to be interactive. So if you would please participate with us and use the question function in the GoToWebinar, as outlined here on the slide. We will answer all questions at the end of the session. We'll also provide all attendees and registrants with a link to the recording by tomorrow, so you can share those with your team members as well if they weren't able to join us today. Some of you have been Oasis Solutions clients for many years, and some of you might be unfamiliar with our services. So I'm going to give you a quick background on the business process that Oasis Solutions takes our clients through, and we've been doing this for 27 years. We're headquartered here in Louisville, Kentucky. We have offices in Lexington and Nashville. And our core business practice is around helping our clients automate efficiencies within their businesses. We like to focus on people and process first. We believe that software is a tool that helps people and process become more productive. And we have clients in over 35 states and several hundred of them that have depended on us for decades to help them do just that. We'll take clients through a selection process, helping them find the right software needs, partnering with best-in-breed applications like Avalara for sales tax automation, and making sure that we focus on what they buy and who they buy from. Our team is comprised of former controllers, CFOs, we have CPAs on staff, and really smart folks who help make up our team to help our clients select, implement, and then support their core business management systems. And we have over 300 years of combined experience in doing just that.
But Aaron, thank you very much, and Falana, and the rest of the team at Oasis for letting me speak in front of you all. I really appreciate it. What I'm going to do is just take a few minutes to talk about Avalara, what the problem is as to why you should care, some funny tax laws that are included in these weird tax laws, and what we can do about it and how we can help you streamline your business in automation. So we were founded in 2004. We have 20,000 active customers, and we have 600 pre-built integrations. Now, whether you're on NetSuite, whether you're on Sage, whether you're on Salesforce or a POS system, we can integrate with all systems and have everything automated for you. We also manage $25 million exemption certificates, and last year alone, we remitted to the state $18 billion in taxes. So why is this a big deal? Well, 47% of sales of revenue for the states comes from sales tax. And the reason is because no one's ever gotten elected by saying, we're going to raise your property taxes. We're going to raise your income taxes. Where they're going to collect the bulk of their revenue is from sales tax because it's the least impactful to their campaigns. And then also expanding it to online, you're looking at $24 billion that have accrued from uncollected e-commerce sales tax. So sales tax calculations are just the beginning or the tip of the iceberg. You also have Nexus that you have to worry about, product taxability, jurisdiction assignment, exemption certificates, state and local tax prep and filing, and audit readiness. And I'll cover some of these. Starting with Nexus, it's no longer based on where you are located. You can be at a trade show and that can set off Nexus. You can rent out a warehouse from a third-party vendor and that could also create Nexus. So the laws are changing, and they're changing so much so that the Supreme Court has already heard through Wayfair versus South Dakota what constitutes Nexus, and we're actually going to be waiting for a decision next month. So taxability rules are really funny and strange. Take, for example, New York. In New York, if you buy a bagel, well, it's considered a food. So, of course, it's tax-free. However, if you slice that bagel in half, all of a sudden there's a tax attached to it. Why? Because there's prepared food tax associated with it. Then you take donuts in Texas. If you buy 5 donuts or less in the state of Texas, well, it's a donut, so it's taxable. However, if you buy 6 or more, it's tax-free. In the state of Indiana, if you buy a Hershey bar, well, it's a candy, right? Well, candy is tax-free. It is taxable. Unless you're buying a cookies and cream Hershey bar, in which case that is tax-free. Why is that the case? Well, because there's wheat flour in that Hershey's cookies and cream bar. So because of that, wheat is a subsidized item by the state of Indiana, and all of a sudden it's tax-free. But it's not just products either, it's also services. So snow removal in the Midwest, it's taxable in Ohio, but exempt in Illinois. And the point is, imagine being a controller or a CFO in Kentucky, trying to figure out what the products and tax rates for each taxable item are in different states. One state's manageable, 2 states are even manageable, but when you get to 3 or more states and you're trying to calculate what the taxes are, it might be in your best interest to actually just explore to see what availability there is in automating your system. So there's 150 million jurisdictions and 11,000 jurisdictional rules. And traditionally speaking, you would think that by using someone's address would be the correct method of calculating taxes. Well, that's not correct, and I'll show you exactly why. Take, for example, Denver. Denver has all of these different zip codes. And you would think, okay, well, if I'm in Greenwood Village, that's good enough for me to calculate what those taxes are. Let me show you why that's not correct. Here are the congressional districts that are based off of each of those zip codes. And if you look at 80111, you'll notice that there's 4 congressional districts that are affected by that zip code. Not to mention all of these ancillary taxes like a football district tax or a science and cultural district tax. And the point is that if you don't charge the correct amount of taxes, you can either do one of 2 things. If you undercharge, well, that means you still owe the state the taxes. Just because you collected the wrong amount doesn't mean you don't owe more. But if you collect more, you're going to be less competitive than those other vendors that are actually charging the correct amounts. So you'd really want to be as exact as possible. Then also exemption certificates. Exemption certificates are one of those things to where they need to be collected for every transaction. And in a lot of cases, take one of your salespeople, for example. At the end of the month, if someone has a purchase order for $100,000, but they don't want that person who's issuing that PO order doesn't want taxes charged to them, well, they have to hand in their exemption certificate. Do you think one of your salespeople is going to turn down a $100,000 PO just because they don't have that exemption certificate? That guy says, I'll get it to you tomorrow. Your salesperson is going to say, no problem. The problem is, more often than not, the next day, it's easy to forget because they're already on to that next sale. And the matter of the fact is that they don't even know how to validate these exemption certificates, and it's a lot of times difficult to collect. So we automate that process for you. So even if someone has an expired PO, we will send a notification saying, hey, you have an expired exemption certificate. We need a new one, in which case we automate that system for you. So state and local prep time and filing challenges. A lot of problems with filing with multiple states is that there's different deadlines for each state. Some states want you to do it on a quarterly basis, some on an annual, and some on a monthly basis. And then you also have to aggregate information from multiple billing systems. And responding to state and local tax notices, we again automate the entire process for you. State of California has a 15-page state tax return. It's easier to read card serial instructions. Meanwhile, in Texas, it is so easy that if you mess up, you are not allowed to submit another form until the next day. So there's different processes and different ways of doing things, and it's just time consuming. And your controllers or CFOs can do a little more productive. Um, that would be a revenue generating activity than just calculating these mundane um, forms and calculating rates. So let's say you do get an audit. How do you collect that information? We actually get you detailed reports and all valid exemption certificates on demand, to where the readiness that you need will be cut down dramatically. The cost of compliance is about $67,000 to $400,000. Here's a key factor is that I find it really interesting. Out of the people that we surveyed in the financial arena, 75% would think that an auditor would find a mistake if they were actually audited. The best case scenario is that they do their job right. They're not going to get a raise, they're not going to get a pat on the back, but it's such a high probability of finding something wrong that it makes sense to at least consider looking at automation. So any efforts spent on sales tax and use tax compliance are non-revenue generating activities. A lot of things you could be doing instead of calculating what sales tax or filing forms out could be looking at what the probability is of bringing a new product to a new demographic or market, or streamlining your accounts payable department or streamlining your accounts receivable department. Those are revenue generating activities that could easily impact your business. So 56% of companies have found that the cost of average sales tax audit to be over $50,000. And again, there's a lot of time, whether it's preparing and supporting or back tax payments or even penalties or interest. And we automate that. And we're the only company that actually guarantees our rates. So the sales tax, the Avalara sales tax suite that we offer is with Nexus, you can add any jurisdiction with just one click. In terms of product taxability, we use our built-in rules and we change that ongoing updates in real time. You don't have anything to upload anymore. And it's just as you're doing business right now, except we calculate those rates automatically for you. Jurisdiction assignments. We're using the full address and we're using GPS coordinates, not just zip codes. We automate the certificate management. And also we outsource filing and state tax remittance. And audit readiness, you'll be able to have when you get audited. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. Easily have ways of accessing tax data and documents. So we're the only company that has a full end-to-end solution for sales tax, whether it's exemption certificate management to and from your customers, the Avatax system to where we communicate with your existing system, whether it's your ERP or POS system, and we automate that for you, and then we also file the returns for you as well if you like it. So we're accurate, we're efficient, we're integrated. It is a streamlined solution. With our NetSuite connector, it was developed with NetSuite, so it's literally a seamless interaction. And with Sage, we have an extremely incredible connector as well. I'd say that's our number 2 connector. So there is minimal IT support for ongoing maintenance. We handle all that for you. So here are some of the some people who have talked about Avalara and what they think about us, that we've helped streamline sales tax and reporting process within organizations. And one thing that's a real big idea is that we guarantee our solution and we guarantee our accuracy. And the amount of time that you will save by using Avalara is exponentially valuable. And then here's some of our companies that we work with. Now you'll notice we do have the huge companies like Salesforce and Reebok and Marketo and Adidas, but we also work with mom and pop shops, and it's economies of scale. So we do have something for everyone. It just really depends on what your needs are and how we can best solve that solution for you. We don't have this cookie cutter product that says, hey, you need to fit in this box or that box. we actually have a custom solution for each individual, and we'll get one of our salespeople to talk to you about what we can do to further help and decide what your needs are in terms of calculating the best rate for you. So that's all I have. I thank you very much for your time. I try to keep it as short as possible, but as concise. If you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out, type them in, or if anything, reach out to Aaron to where he can further talk to you about how we can help you. Thank you very much, and I appreciate your time. Aaron?
Yeah, thanks again, George, and thanks everybody for joining us for today's webinar. Appreciate your patience as we ran through some technical difficulties there. George, we do have a couple of questions, and the first one is concerning pricing. So can you tell us a little bit about how the pricing for Avalara works?
Sure. So again, as I mentioned, pricing is very based on your individual needs. I've seen costs as low as $3,500, and I've seen them as high as $50,000. It just depends on how many transactions you're running in a month or at a time. It also matters in how many states you're running in. So if you're only currently working in 2 or 3 states, it's going to be a much less of a cost than you working in all 50 states. So again, it's based on number of transactions and also based on number of states.
Okay, and George, we have another question, and please, if you have a question, now would be the time to chime in here. This is the last one we have currently. How do I know if I've established Nexus or not?
Great question. So a lot of people, when I ask people, I'm like, how many states are you collecting taxes in? It's like, how many are we currently? And I always have to change my question. I'm like, how many states should you be collecting taxes in? And that also gets a chuckle of a response, only because if you go to a trade show, there's a chance that you could be liable for Nexus. We have a service that is actually not part of the products that I mentioned called a Nexus review. It costs about $1,200 or $1,500, and it'll actually do a review and evaluation of your entire business, and we'll actually tell you exactly where you are actually liable for collecting taxes in whichever state. So it's a service that's very quick. Again, if you want, just reach out to Aaron and he can put you through to that. But it's a service that's $1,500, and my salesperson would be more than happy to talk to you further about that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what the webinar today is really for, to determine if you have further questions or needs. That's what our team here is able to provide answers to, as well as leaning on resources at Avalara. We do have another question, George, about QuickBooks and another system called IQMS. I'm assuming those are questions regarding to integration. You mentioned having all of these great pre-built integrations to Avalara. Are you familiar with anybody that uses it for either of those solutions?
Sure, I do know we have a connector for QuickBooks as well. That's our Soho division that handles that. I can most certainly put your client with that division to help that. In terms of the other one, I'd have to check back.
Actually, we have quite a few other questions rolling in here.
Great.
For clarification, is Avalara filing each state's monthly tax return for the customer?
Yes. State tax return, correct.
And also, we have a question about a demonstration for the software. That is absolutely something that we would like to schedule in order to do a demonstration that really hits the mark for your organization. It's best to have a quick discovery call. Sometimes we can wrap a demonstration and that discovery call into the same meeting, but just take another hour out of your afternoon and we can get that scheduled.
Perfect. Yeah.
If anyone else needs a demonstration of the software and also some of the integration, a demonstration of that depending on your source system, those are some of the differentiators that we can make when we're setting up next steps with customers.
Right.
Okay, and that answers all the questions in the queue today. Of course, everyone has my information here on the screen. I'm Aaron at oasisky.com. Be happy to schedule any of those follow-up appointments with my staff here. George, thanks again for joining us today, and we appreciate everybody's time and attention. And again, look out for the email that follows up with the webinar recording. Feel free to share that with your colleagues, and we look forward to speaking with you again soon. Until next time, appreciate it very much.